My Math, McGraw-Hill, 4th grade, Volume 2, Chapter 14, Lesson 3 today, Hands-on Model Angles. Okay. So, an angle is a geometric shape that is formed when two rays have the same endpoint. Okay, so here's the endpoint, here's a ray, here's a ray. So the angle is what is formed inside. Angles are measured by the amount of rotation or turning from one ray to another. So if you look at this description, they're using, well, it's not really, it's a circle, but we're looking at the black lines here, the two lines that make the angle. So the angle is made when these two open up. So this side could be an angle, or this side could be an angle, okay? It depends how you're looking at it. All right, so if you're looking at it like this is what's called a quarter turn, 1/4 of a turn. Also can be said quarter turn, okay? If it's open up like this, it is what's called a half turn. And if it's both together, and this red will indicate the angle, that means that this is a complete 360 degrees. It has a full, what's called a full turn, okay? So again, you want to look at the red because the red here is telling you the angle, which side is the angle of the opening, okay? All right, so let's go to draw it. Trace the lines to draw an angle that measures 1/4 turn, okay? So here it is. So you're just going to draw, just follow along so you can kind of see. Oops, it's down the line. I didn't stay on the line very well. Okay. All right, draw an angle that measures 1/4 turn. Trace the lines to draw two rays with a common endpoint. So there's your common endpoint. Common means they share it. The two rays form an angle. So you got one ray and the second ray, and they form the angle, okay? There's your angle symbol. The center of the circle is at the same point as the endpoint of the two rays. The angle you drew measures 1/4 turn, okay? It also creates a 90-degree angle. So a 1/4 turn equals a 90-degree angle, also called a right angle. Okay. All right, 2. Draw an angle that measures less than 1/4 turn. Okay, so they're asking you to draw an angle that measures less than 1/4 turn. Okay, so using the center of the circle as an endpoint, draw a ray that is inside the angle you drew in step 1, which is this one, okay? The ray you drew and the horizontal ray form an angle. This angle measures less than 1/4 of a turn. All right, so we're going to do that. You can do that just by drawing a circle. And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, but maybe right here, there's some space. So if you draw a circle, okay, put a point in the middle. All right, and it says, and then you can use anything like a ruler, okay? I'm going to use this, but if you have a little notepad or a small book, the lines don't have to be perfect, but as best you can. So this one will be my straight line here, and it could go outside of this circle. Okay, now remember, it said draw it less than 1/4 turn, so it has to be smaller than this. So if I go and do it straight this way, it's the same thing. So I need to slant it in a little bit and make it smaller. And it doesn't matter how much you go in, okay? Just needs to be smaller. Okay, so we can have slightly different ones, but that's what they mean by less than a quarter. So I'm going to label this less than 1/4 turn. Okay? Good? Okay. Give you a minute. Draw that out. Make sure it's less than a quarter. Okay? And then you're going to write less than 1/4 turn. All right. Are we ready to move on? Okay. If you haven't finished, we can always go back to do it. Okay? All right. Okay. Let's go on to the next page. Again, if you haven't finished, we can go back and do that. No problem. Okay. So, try it. Trace the lines to draw an angle that measures 1/4 turn. Then draw an angle that measures greater than 1/4 turn. Okay, so again, trace the lines to draw an angle that measures 1/4 turn. Okay, so let's do that first. Okay, the lines are already there. We're just going to trace them. Sorry. Forget. And then, okay. All right, so then draw an angle that measures greater. Could we use the same circle to do that? Maybe. I don't know. Let's see if we find more space here. Get my book here. Okay. All right, so let's draw another circle right here. It doesn't have to be very big, okay? All right, so we're going to draw another circle here. Put a little middle point. And again, with your, if you have a ruler, that's great, but you don't need one, okay? And this time it said to draw the angle that is greater. So I want to make sure it's greater than this. So I'm going to have it go this way, past the 90-degree turn. Okay? And that's it. So then put a little arrow here, a little arrow there. So now this is greater than 1/4 turn. Okay? Okay, so we've done 1/4 of a turn. This is what this is. Also known as a 90-degree turn. Also known as a right angle. So this has a lot of names. It's 1/4 turn, 90 degrees, or a right angle. Okay? All right, so draw an angle that measures 1/4 turn. Trace the lines to draw two rays with a common endpoint. The two rays form an angle. There it is. The center of the circle is at the same point as the endpoint of the two rays. Oh, the center of the circle. Okay? The angle you drew measures 1/4 of a turn. Okay? All right, number 2 says, draw an angle that measures greater than 1/4. Using the center of the circle as an endpoint, draw a ray that is outside the angle you drew in step 1. The ray you drew and the horizontal ray form an angle. The angle measures greater than 1/4. So the horizontal ray is the one that is going this way, okay? All right, so there it is. See, it's wider than this one. So we call that a greater angle. All right? All right, talk about it. Draw a conclusion without drawing a circle. Determine whether the angle at the right has a measure that is greater than, less than, or equal to half a turn. Okay, so if you go back to the description, there it is. So we have 1/4 of a turn will look like an L, half a turn looks like a straight line, and a full turn means it went all the way around. Think of a clock, the arm of a clock, see? And the red is showing you how it went. Boom, and landed back on top of that one, okay? All right. So, without drawing a circle, determine whether the angle at the right has a measure that is greater than, less than, or equal to half turn. Okay, so look at that. Okay, which one is it? If you're saying half a turn, you are correct. Okay, so this is called half turn. Okay, write this down. Because it always says to do what? To explain, and we explain by using because. Because if there was a circle, and remember the end point is always the middle of the circle. If there was a circle, it would be half the circle. Okay. Refer to the angle you drew in the activity above. Okay. State whether the angle's measure is greater than, less than, or equal to half turn. Okay, so I'm thinking this one here. Okay, so if you're comparing this to a half turn, this is a half turn. Let's write that down here. Is this one greater than a half turn? Yes or no? Shake your head so I can know. Yes or no? Is this greater than a half turn? Remember, a half turn would be over here. Let's just draw it in. This is a half turn. So is this greater than a half turn? No, you should be saying no. Is it less than a half turn? Is it less than a half turn? Meaning it's smaller than a half turn? And we're moving this way. Okay. Or is it equal to a half turn? Is this the same as that? So hopefully you guys are saying it is less than a half turn. And then again, explain. Why do we have to explain? So we know if you get it or not. Okay, so let's just draw it right here. It looks like this. Okay, that's what we drew, right? Right there. Looks kind of the same. Okay, so we're going to draw this here to explain. So this angle, put your little circle in so we know it's opening that way. Okay, this angle is less than a half turn. And what does a half turn look like? I'm going to write it in here. There's your end point. Because it does not make a straight line. Okay. Where's my roll sheets? All right. Questions? Okay, so now we're going to practice it here. Draw an angle with a measure less than a quarter turn. Okay, so you just got to follow what it says. And again, you don't need a ruler. You can freehand this. So always start your first line here. Have it come out a little bit. Okay, just like theirs. Okay, so this angle needs to be what? Less. And we know that a quarter turn would look like that, right? It would be a perfect L. We don't want that, so you just want to bring it in, your angle in. Anything smaller than that works. It doesn't have to be exactly like mine. And then draw it in. There you go. And how do I know which way the angle's going? If the angles went this way, that's greater than a quarter turn. So we got to make sure we put in the little angle symbol of the way the hands move. Okay? Now this one says draw an angle with a measure greater than. Okay? So again, always start with your straight horizontal line. Okay? All right, and then you guys draw on the second. Remember, this one is what? Greater. Okay? So that means, remember, your 90-degree line is there, so it has to be outside of this. Okay, it has to be greater. All right? Draw lines to match each figure to its description. Okay? So, what kind of angle is this? Okay, so that's what you want to go back and check on, and then you just match them. And don't forget your word problems. Okay? All right. Hope you had fun.